I would like to ask everyone, maybe someone can put into our chat the link to the newly available transcript from Jayne Cortez's piece. And I would like to ask everyone to pick out any instance of got, G-O-T, from that poem, or maybe one or two lines, each one of us. And I'm going to add, you'll have to indulge this. We're going to get everybody to speak, but you have to be real quick and interpret the sense of got in that line that you pick. So we need somebody to post the link. There it is. Thank you, Anna. So for those who are watching from home, we're talking about a poem where the transcript is not primary. The primary thing is the performance, but we have a transcript. And it gives you a sense of the marvelous way in which Jayne Cortez renders got. I mean, there are many other words that are repeated and crucial, but for the sake of time, let's talk about got. So has everybody got a line or two? Because I'm about to start calling on you to tell us what got means, what a big word it is. I'm going to start with Lily. Pick a line and tell us about got, please, Lil.
I'm going to pick got political again.
And how does got work there?
I think I interpret this as someone cautioning a person, like, don't get so political at the dinner table or something. Like,
okay,
got
nice.
political with your choice of subject matter.
Wow, you know, that's such a nuanced sense of God. Oh my God, yeah. Oh my God, I don't know how to try to translate that. It's a really nuanced, like it's the 16th OED definition of God, which is what, Lil? Somewhere between.
I don't know, like
it's somewhere between becoming,
yeah,
and possessing and infecting. It's some.
I think it has a lot to do with like aggression or projection. Like.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Gabe, your line.
I was gonna say she got pregnant. Because grammatically it literally means like she became pregnant, but pregnancy takes another person in some sense of it. And so like the expression she got pregnant can also be used almost as like a pejorative, like, oh, she let herself get pregnant, or like somebody made her pregnant, somebody got her pregnant.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That is an English idiom, or American English idiom, that is probably not done much. Got pregnant as opposed to became pregnant. Got is really kind of a tough word there, and we use it. Anna, your line.
I was going to do that one.
Oh, okay. Well, you can do it. You can do it also, and then translate the got.
I mean, I was going to say something similar, like the way that it feels so, like that language, it's like kind of a blaming. It's kind of a, like, oh, then she got pregnant and like she stopped being fun and she stopped being cool and she, you know, threw her life away, and, you know, like all like the shitty things you say to a person who's, you know, dealing with something that can confirm is really hard.
In a poem where got aspires in certain moments to be a gaining of something or becoming something, we're always reminded by this extraordinary performance by Cortez that got also has its downsides. Erica, your line and your connotation of got.
My line is got to be a hot feminist. And I think it's so interesting because got changes a lot when it combines with to be. So, you know, it's simultaneously going back to this idea of permission. So like, you know, the idea that you get to be something while also there's an urgency there. Like, I gotta be a hot feminist.
Yeah. Love that. And also there's the hot. When got rhymes with hot, things happen in that poem. Max, your line and your connotation.
I'm going to do got cold and got to going berserk in the workplace, which is where she switched over to the he, and also starts getting into this rhythm of got cold and got to. And I just love the contrast between those two forms of got. The getting cold as this cooling off, this act of this form of entropy. It's just a thing that kind of happens to you. You cool off, your energy dissipates, Would they go got to as this really interesting construction? To get to something is to finally come around to doing the thing you were supposed to do. It's such a weird use of got there. I love the contrast between those two uses. I'm
going to turn to Dave, but just throw out the idea that this poem is one of the ways in which it's marvelous is it does what modern contemporary poems do a lot, which is it becomes a list, and in doing its thing, which is a lot, it almost alphabetizes or anatomizes something that we take for granted in the language. It's Steinian in that sense. It's Steinian in a lot of senses. Dave, what line and what sense of got?
Got authoritative. I just love that. I mean, authoritative is an attitude, a way of being, but it's also something, it reminds me of passing the conch shell in Lord of the Flies. You can get the authority and then you have it, not just an attitude.
Oh, that's cool. Amber Rose?
Yeah, my line is got hot and got stuck on the global assembly line.
Got it stuck, right? Stuck on, is it?
Yes, got stuck on. Sorry, got stuck on the global assembly line. And I think got there sort of relates to how got was used in terms of got pregnant, but a much bigger scale, perhaps, in that the got is sort of assuming that the conditions were made by the she, but in fact, the conditions of a global assembly line, and even a globally assembly line that for whom certain people would get stuck on it, is like, this is a context and a structure that was already existing, but that got is sort of reframing or getting us to think about, was the structure made that allowed this sticking, or did the subject ensnare themselves?
Oh, yeah. Man, that's really great. And we're all thinking in our heads what things might be on that global assembly line, right? I mean, it seems to me that these binaristic pronouns may actually be formed on that assembly line. What are some of the things the global assembly line is delivering to language? This is one of the things that she does so well, is figure out what those things are, what has been made globally. Jake, your line and your connotation of got?
Got hot like a hot old bubbling crater. And
Dickinsonian.
Yeah, it's just it's so awfully sad, and because crater, like, there's nothing to bubble in a crater, but it's bubbling, and it got there, but is it like a revitalization or a diss?
Yeah. Wow, I love that.
What do you got there in your crater?
Great. That's great. Davey, what do you got? Got
hot and got tied to a computer. And that line is so interesting to me because the other like workplace oriented lines in that segment involve the subject getting attached to a sewing machine, a cash register, and the global assembly line. And a computer as an object is suggesting perhaps a job that, unlike those other three, is not a manual labor job. And thinking about the ensnaring that's happening as being in common, as being pretty similar. So it's refusing a set of like binarized class politics in which there are tiers of jobs, but rather thinking more broadly about a labor structure that claims someone's life. And like Amber Rose was saying of the line that follows it, that in which labor comes to claim someone's life somehow as a result of their disposition, that somehow if got hot is a statement about affect, is a statement about someone reading the subject's feelings or deciding for her how she feels or telling her how she's behaving. There's a relationship between how that behavior is read and then the labor structure in which she's embedded. It's also a line that I'm inclined to read literally. I mean, many people feel that their relationship to their work is unhealthy or coercive. But the physical relation to being physically tied to your computer is really scary. That's an idea that really freaks me out. But in thinking about like the way that, I mean, this is a poem that's detached from the present slightly. Its moment of composition is somewhat in the past, but it also feels like maybe even more true now, in that, like, I don't know, if you have your phone on your person all the time, like you're kind of tied to your computer. Like thinking about that's an affective relationship, and that's a relationship of, as Amber Rose was saying about the line that follows it, like global capitalism, like acting on your body all of the time.
Yeah,
which is upsetting.
Yeah, well said, well chosen. Jess, Jason, and Allie, you guys will have to be quick.
Okay, my line is, she got hot without heat. And I was glad that line was in the transcript, because I actually heard it and I wrote it down before. But that strikes me because I think got there is like, I understand in a few ways. One, made, or like fabricated, contrived, like somehow managed to make this hot without heat. And it's also like, I was thinking about this sense of got as like, oh, you got me, you know, like it's a kind of confounding or a kind of like a, yeah, that's the word, confounding of hot, right? To say you don't need heat to make hot, or that there can be other senses, there can be other ways of getting that are unconventional or unexpected, or that might not be recognizable.
Right.
If we're just looking for the presence of heat to, you know, to confirm that.
That's so great, Jess. And it reminds me that every time you see got in this poem, you want to try to project onto it the meaning of got as comprehend or understand. If you do that, doubling every connotation, you get a sense of an exploration of trying to understand what's on the other side of God, whatever that condition is, even if it's paradoxical in the case that you've chosen. All right, Jason and Allie, quickly, a line and a connotation for got. Jason?
You're muted, Jason.
Going further down, like where there's this transition where he got happy before he got cold, he got fed before he got cold. And I mean, I get out of got, it's such a intense verb tense in terms of it being it's something that always feels like it feels kind of, its repetition feels exciting, but every time it's repeated, it's something that is being kind of received by the he or the she, and that kind of transforms them without their control.
Yeah, oh yeah, I get that.
And so, I mean, he got fed, like he got excited. It's like, these are just things that are, it's kind of like the world is doing these things, is doing the giving, and it's like from the social world, one is got, and kind of has no choice in the matter.
Interesting. I want to thank you, Jason. I want to turn to Allie, and then I'm going to shift gears a little bit as we begin to wrap up.
Got hot and got to screaming, rescue me. And there got is almost like she came around to, there's a certain eventuality or inevitability to this result, from like the accumulation of all of the gots that we've gotten before.